The Ideal Made Real, Chapter 19, Changing Your Own Fate. When you discover that you are living in a world that you did not create, and that does not correspond with your ideals, there is a tendency to break loose from external conditions at the earliest possible moment, but this tendency must be checked. Nothing is gained through an attempt to change from one world of effect to another world of effect without first changing the cause. The majority believe that when things are wrong in the outer world, the only remedy is to change external conditions. But the fact is that external conditions are simply effects from internal causes. And so long as those internal causes remain the same, no attempt to change external conditions will prove of permanent value. So long as there are adverse causes in your inner life, there will be adverse effects in your outer life, no matter how many times you may change from one condition to another or from one place to another. When you begin to seek emancipation from the false world in which you are living now, in other words, when you begin to take positive measures to change your own fate, the first thing to do is to resolve not to make any forceful effort to change external conditions without first changing the inner cause of those conditions. Let outer things be as they are for the time being, and continue to remain where you are until you can open a door to better things. But while you are waiting for this door to open, do not be idle in any manner whatever. Although you are letting things be as they are in the external sense, and although you are not forcing yourself into different places or circumstances, still your purpose must be to entirely remake yourself. You came into this false state of life because you were misled by your own judgment, and if you should break loose, this same judgment will mislead you again. You will thus pass from one world that is not your own into some other world that is not your own, and there will be no improvement in the change. If you have not improved yourself in any manner whatever, your judgment will be just as inferior and unreliable as it was before, and no attempt to follow this judgment into different conditions will help matters in the least. Your object is not to set yourself free from the false world in which you are living now, and then enter some other world that is not your own. You are not ready to move, neither physically nor mentally, until you have created a world of your own, just as you would have in your present state of development. Therefore, all thought of change will but divert your attention from the real purpose in view. So long as you are constantly thinking about external changes, your mind cannot concentrate upon internal changes. So long as you are trying to change external conditions, you cannot change yourself, and as you yourself are the cause of the new world which you are trying to create, you must recreate yourself before you can create the external world as you desire. To change your fate, begin with yourself. If the environments in which you live are beneath your ideal, nothing can be gained by leaving those environments until the way is open naturally to better things. If you simply get up and leave, you will gravitate into something elsewhere that will be just as uncongenial as those conditions you left behind. First, find the reason why you are living in your present adverse environment, then proceed to remove that cause. There may be many reasons, but in most cases the principal reason is a lack of ability or lack of power to apply the ability you possess. In such a case, you must remove inability by becoming more proficient, and as soon as you are competent to render better service, you will readily find a better place. This means larger remuneration, and you will thus be able to secure more desirable surroundings. The many, however, will think that to promote sufficient improvement so as to command greater recompense, and do so in a short time, is practically impossible under the average conditions. But all difficulties that may be met in this connection may be readily removed through the principles of modern metaphysics. Continuous improvement in everything pertaining to the life, the power, the capacity, or the mentality of the individual can be readily promoted by anyone and decided results secured in a very short time. Therefore, no person needs remain in adverse or limited conditions. He can, through the awakening and expression of the best that is in himself, become competent to take advantage of greater opportunities, and thus change his fate, his future, and his destiny. If you wish to improve your physical environment, remain content where you are while you develop the power to earn and create better environments. Contentment with things as they are, and harmony with everything about you are indispensable essentials if you wish to increase your ability, your capacity, and your worth. To continue to kick against the pricks is to remain where pricks are abundant. But when we cease this mode of action and begin to polish off all the rough corners of our nature and improve ourselves in every manner possible, things will take a turn. We will leave the world of pricks and enter a smoother path. The polished man is admitted to the polished world, where there are no rough places and where adverse conditions are few, if existing at all. When circumstances are against you, do not contend with circumstances. So long as we contend with things, things will contend with us. Do not resist present conditions. You prolong their existence by doing so. Whatever comes, meet all things in the attitude of perfect harmony, and you will find that all things, even the most adverse, can be readily handled and turned to good account. We all know the marvelous power of the man who can harmonize contending factions, be they in his own life or in his circumstances. He not only gains good from everything that he meets, but he becomes a most highly respected person and is sought wherever opportunities are great and where great things are to be accomplished. Learn to harmonize the contending factions in your own life and experience, and you will find yourself entering new worlds where circumstances are more congenial and opportunities far greater. You will thus meet more desirable events, more desirable people, and superior advantages of every description will begin to appear in your pathway. If your present friends are not to your liking, admire them nevertheless for their good quality that they may possess. Emphasize their good qualities and ignore everything in their nature that seems inferior. This will help you to develop superior qualities in yourself. And this is extremely important because as you develop superiority, you prepare yourself for places higher up the scale. Make yourself over, so to speak, in your own friendship. Increase your personal worth. Polish your own character. Refine your mind, and make real more and more of the ideal. double and treble your love and your kindness, and constantly increase your admiration for everything that has real quality and high worth. Continue until you have results. Whether those results begin to come in at once or not, they will positively come before long, and the things that you develop in yourself, you will meet in your external world. Change yourself for the better in every shape and manner, and you change your fate for the better. But the change that you produce in yourself must not simply be negative in its action. It is the positive character, the positive mind, the positive personality that meets in the external world what has been developed in the internal world. The fact that a change in yourself can produce a similar change in your fate, your environments, your circumstances, in brief, everything in your outer world, may not seem clear at first, but it is easily demonstrated to be the truth when we analyze the relationship that exists between man and the world in which he lives. Everything that exists in your outer world has a correspondent in your inner world. This inner correspondent is the cause that has either created or attracted its external counterpart, and the process is easily understood. To state it briefly, environment corresponds with ability. Circumstances are the aggregation of events brought about by your own actions and associations and friends, which follow the law of like attracting like. That environment is the direct effect of ability may not seem true when we observe that there are many people living in luxury that have practically no ability. But we must first demonstrate that these people have no ability. We shall find that those who have actually accumulated their own wealth have ability, in fact, exceptional ability, though they may not always have employed it according to the exact principles of justice. On the other hand, when we understand the process of creation, we shall find that the ability employed according to principle will produce far greater results than when it is employed unjustly. Therefore, the law underlying the power of ability to create its own environment acts wholly in the favor of him who lives according to the highest ideals of life. This fact becomes more evident when we discern that success is not measured simply by the accumulation of things, but also by the accumulation of those elements in life that pertain to quality and worth in man's interior nature. It is wealth in the mental and the spiritual worlds that has the greatest value or the greatest power in promoting the welfare and the happiness of man, and this higher wealth can be accumulated only by those who are living according to their ideals. However, the accumulation of mental and spiritual wealth will have a direct tendency to increase the power and capacity of practical ability, and practical ability, when scientifically applied, will tend to increase tangible wealth, that is, to improve the value and worth of external environments. When we consider this subject from the universal viewpoint, we shall find a perfect correspondence existing between the size of a man's possessions, physical, mental, and spiritual, and the size of his brains, taking the term brains to signify ability, capacity, and worth in the largest sense. But the size of brains can be increased perpetually. We therefore conclude that possessions in the larger sense can be increased perpetually, and he who is perpetually increasing his possessions on all of the planes of his life is constantly changing his fate for the better. We shall also find that when a person increases the power of his own life, he will bring about, through his own actions, new events, and these new events will produce new circumstances. To change circumstances is to change fate, and whatever the change may be in fate, circumstances, or events, it will be a change for the better if the increase of power is applied according to the principle of ideals. Again, when a person develops quality and superiority in himself, he will, through the law of attraction, meet friends and associates that are after his own heart. In other words, he will enter a world where his ideals, both as to persons and as to things, are constantly being made real in every sphere of his present state of existence. He is thus creating for himself a better fate in every sense of the term, and opening doors and pathways to a larger and a more beautiful future than he has ever realized before. But the beginning is in himself. In fact, every change for the better must begin within the life of man himself, and whoever will begin to change for the better in the within will positively realize greater and greater changes for the better in the without. The Ideal Made Real, Chapter 20. Building your own ideal world. To build your own ideal world, the first essential is to begin to build in the real everything that you can discern in the ideal. And the second essential is to continue to rebuild your ideal world according to higher and higher ideals. However congenial or desirable or perfect our world may be, we should continue to improve upon it constantly. When we cease to promote progression, we return to the ways of retrogression. One of the principal causes of undesirable events or unexpected reverses among the more capable is found in the tendency to stop, rest, and enjoy what we have gained whenever conditions are fairly satisfactory. It is the mind that is ever creating the new and ever recreating everything according to higher ideals that is always free and that is always enjoying the best. No one can be in bondage to the lesser who is constantly rising out of the lesser, and he who is ever growing into the best is constantly enjoying the best. In the last analysis, retrogression is the only cause of bondage, while constant progression is the only cause of perfect freedom, and constant progression is promoted by the continuous recreation of everything in your world according to higher and higher ideals. To begin, your entire mentality must be changed and constantly changed so as to correspond perfectly with your newest thoughts on every subject and your highest ideals of everything that you can discern in your life. The mind is the cause and is the source of every force that can act as a cause of whatever may be developed, expressed, or worked out through yourself into your external world. Therefore, begin with the mind and with all the elements of the mind. All desires, motives, and ambitions must be concentrated upon the larger and the perfect in their various spheres of action. All the mental states must be in harmony with each other and with the outer as well as the inner conditions of life. All mental qualities must be expanded and enlarged constantly, and consciousness must be trained to act perpetually upon the verge of the limitless. The entire world of thought must be perpetually renewed, enlarged, and perfected, and every step taken in the mental world must be practically expressed and applied in the outer world. In order to bring all the creative forces of mind into harmony with the goal in view, the ideal wish to be realized must be thoroughly established in consciousness, and the goal in view must be constantly held before the mental vision. In the rebuilding of your own world, one of the principal causes of failure will be found in a tendency to change in your plans, motives, or desires. Therefore, do not permit yourself to entertain one group of desires today and a different group tomorrow. Do not permit your faith to fall into periodical states of doubt. Decide upon what you wish to do, accomplish, promote, and attain, and proceed to live, think, and work for those things, regardless of what may happen. The powers within you follow the predominating state of mind, and when these things are constantly changing, the creative forces will be employed simply in taking initial steps, but never in completing anything. On the other hand, when your mental states, desires, motives, plans, etc., continue to concentrate upon the one supreme goal in your view, your creative forces will perpetually build towards that goal, and you will be daily rebuilding your entire world according to the higher, the better, and the greater that you have in view. There are thousands of fine minds that are down in the scale today and cannot get up because they are constantly changing their plans, motives, and desires. To create a new world, you must fix in your mind what you wish to create, and then continue to build until the complete structure is finished. Recreate your present world, then constantly make it better, larger, and more beautiful. All the elements of your mind, both conscious and subconscious, must be constantly inspired with your highest thought of the larger, the better, and the more beautiful. Not a single thought should enter your mind that is inferior, or, in the least, beneath your ideal of life, and not a single moment of discouragement or doubt should ever be permitted. Fix your mind on the soul's vision and hold it there through all sorts of circumstances or conditions. Do not waver for a moment. Keep the eye single upon the heights, and all the power of your being will build that greater world that you would see in your mental vision as you concentrate attention upon the heights. The mind must be clean, strong, and high. It is the mind that does things. It is the mind that originates things. Therefore, if you wish to build for yourself an ideal world, the mind must be ideal in every sense of the term, and every element of the mind must always be at its best and act at its best. To promote the right use of mind, the imagination must be guided with the greatest of care. The imagination is one of the most important powers in the mind. The imagination, when misdirected, can produce more ills than any other faculty, and when properly directed can produce greater good than any other faculty. In fact, the imagination, when scientifically applied, becomes a marvelous power in the creative process of the vast mental domain. Train the imagination to picture not only the goal you have in view, but all the highest ideals you can possibly imagine as might exist within the realms of that goal. Train the imaging faculty to impress upon the mind only those superior qualities that you wish to incorporate in your new world, and whatever you impress upon the mind will be created in your mental world. To create superior qualities in the mental world means that you will create as well as attract the superior in your outer world, and you thus promote the building of an ideal world. To build your own ideal world, the more opportunities that you can take advantage of, the better. But opportunities come only to those who have demonstrated their worth. Prove to the world that you have worth and that you can have your choice of almost any opportunity that the world can offer. There is nothing that is in greater demand than great men and women, minds of ability and power, people who can do things. The great mind is constantly in the presence of opportunities to change his environment and his field of action. Therefore, he may enter into a new world almost any time. Those opportunities, however, do not come of themselves. They come because he has made himself equal to those opportunities. Make yourself equal to the best, and you will meet the best. This is a law that is universal and is never known to fail. Make yourself a great power in your present sphere of action. Learn to do things better than they have ever been done before. Produce something for the world that the world wants, and the gates to new and greater opportunities will open for you. Henceforth you may secure almost anything that you may wish, and all the elements that may be necessary for you to employ in order to build the ideal world you have in mind may be readily obtained because you have placed yourself in touch with the limitless supply of the best that life can give. Those who are in search for new and greater opportunities should eliminate the belief that the best things have been said, that all great things have been done, and that all remarkable discoveries have been made. The fact is, we are just in the ABC of literature, invention, art, music, industrial achievements, and extraordinary human attainments. The human race is now on the verge of hundreds of undeveloped fields that have just been discovered, and they have more possibilities in store than we have ever dreamed. Many of these possibilities, when developed, will supply the world with the very things that the present development of the race is demanding in every expression of thought and desire. It is therefore easier to attain greatness and do something of exceptional value at the present time than it ever was before. The opportunities of this age are very numerous, and some of them hold possibilities that are actually marvelous. Those who will prepare themselves to meet the requirements of this age will therefore find a number of rich fields already at hand, and all minds can prepare themselves as required. Every person of moderate intelligence can, in a short time, place himself in the path of some of these new opportunities, and all minds can find better opportunities in their present spheres if they will proceed to become more than they are. Train all the elements of your being to work towards a higher goal, and you will bring forth into expression those greater powers that will make for you a mentality that the world will demand for its highest places of action and achievement. When you proceed to build in yourself an ideal mental world, a mental world of power, ability, capacity, and high worth, you will find it necessary to adapt this mental world to the external world in such a way as to promote harmony of action. The added power of your new mental world must work in harmony with your external world if practical results are to be secured. Circumstances come from personal actions. Therefore, to change circumstances, personal actions must be changed, and to change personal actions, your ideal mental life must be expressed in your personal life. And to this end, the development of a high degree of harmony becomes necessary. Harmony, however, will not only promote the united action of the inner world with the outer world, but will also tend to eliminate mistakes from personal actions. And when we eliminate mistakes from personal actions, we will cease to produce adverse circumstances. When you are in perfect harmony with yourself and everything, you eliminate mental confusion. You thus place your mind in that position where you can think clearly, reason logically, and judge wisely. The result is you will do the right thing at the right time. The elements of your life will be properly blended, and this is necessary in order to create an ideal world. Another essential in the practical application of your ideals to real life is the development of what may be termed interior insight. This faculty will guide you perfectly in your expression of the finer things of life through the tangible things of life. In other words, you will see clearly how to combine the ideal with those actions that are promoted for the purpose of rebuilding the real. To combine the ideal with the real and make the two one, we must come into the closest possible relationship with the finer things in life and learn to use that phase of mind that is always in a cleared up condition. The lower story of the mind is often darkened with false conclusions about things, and is frequently more or less filled with ideas that have been impressed through the senses. But in the upper story, we can see things as they are, we can think clearly, and invariably come to the right conclusions. The power to think in the upper story of the mind, the cleared up side of consciousness, where the sun is always shining and where there are no clouds, is called interior insight. This interior insight not only discerns the ideal, but can discern the practical possibilities that every ideal may contain. And we make the ideal real when we proceed to develop and apply in actual life those practical possibilities that our ideals may contain. Interior insight will also elevate all our mental faculties and cause those faculties to function with far greater efficiency. In fact, the entire mind will be lifted up into a state of greater power, greater brilliancy, and greater ability for high and efficient mental expression. To develop interior insight, aim to use consciousness in the discernment of what may be termed the spirit of all things. Do not simply think of things as they appear on the surface, but try to think of things as they are in the spirit of their interior existence. The mere effort to do this will develop the power to look through things or to look into things, and the growth of this power promotes interior insight. You may thus discern clearly the real worth and the real possibilities that exist in the lofty goal that you have in view. And by keeping the eye single upon that lofty goal, never wavering for a moment, all the powers of your being will work together and build for those greater things that you can see upon the heights of that goal. Thus your entire world in the within as well as in the without, will constantly be recreated and rebuilt according to the likeness of your supreme ideals. In consequence, you will not only build for yourself an ideal world, but you will be building for yourself a world that is ever becoming more and more ideal, and to live in such a world is ideal living indeed. The world that is ever becoming more and more ideal is the world in which to live, and the power to create such a world is now at hand in every human mind. The end of the ideal made real.